God of War Ragnarok is one of those titles that, regardless of its nature, continues to be highly expected. We're finally dealing with a new game from the God of War series, and it's natural that a huge group of gamers are excited about this happening. In addition, the sequel to God of War 2018's acclaimed game is another reason why many now consider Ragnarok to be one of the best game candidates of the year. Anyway, we have prepared ourselves and are waiting for Ragnarok to come and put an end to the Norse saga in this series. Due to the tremendous success of the 2018 version of the series, no one was surprised by the introduction of God of War Ragnarok, and everyone believed that 2 new versions will eventually be released for soft reboot God of War to witness another trilogy for it. But instead, it was the transformation of this supposed trilogy into a duo that surprised us more than anything else. The God of War series tells the story of its first 6 games in Greece, 7 games, if you count the mobile title God of War Betrayal, and now Norse mythology will only host 2 works that itself influence Ragnarok more than you think. Like many people since the introduction of God of War Ragnarok, we have had countless questions about it. Given the fact that Kratos, and possibly Atreus, is leaving Scandinavia at the end of Ragnarok, there are plenty of interesting questions to be asked. For starters, how long will the game take? There will be plenty of scenarios to finish, lots of questions to answer and lots of Valkyries and giants of Jotunheim to slaughter, and many of the key events of Norse mythology should also be depicted. In fact, summarizing everything mentioned in a game will definitely not be easy for Santa Monica Studios. Fortunately, the studio doesn't have to take inspiration from another studio. In fact, the God of War series has been in similar terms in the past, and with God of War 3 launched in 2010, it showed that it knows well the way and plots to end an epic. The latest game of Greek mythology from this series is a great example of patterning, and Ragnarok will be fortunate that its creators have this experience. Although our discussion is not just about mechanics or gameplay design or even fictional content. In this video, we deal with 2 topics: the magnitude of the scale and the duration of the game. From the moment of its inception in 2005 to the present day, God of War is a collection that has always prided itself on stepping up its content. The original game of the series on the PlayStation 2 was by no means a short in terms of the duration of the gaming experience, but when you look at how it got more and more in God of War 2 and especially in God of War 3, you'll find that the first game has been relatively short. The process would have changed according to the fictional content of the game and made perfect sense for the point at which it ended. The God of War 3 game starts with an army of titans, continues with the epic battle of Kratos and ends with the complete and utter destruction of the Greek world steeped in diseases, floods and ghosts. Obviously, with the start of God of War Ragnarok, Kratos is placed in a very different position from a personality point of view than where it was in God of War 3. He used to think only about revenge, but now he's reluctant to get involved in things like this. It goes without saying that even when he is forced to engage in other matters, he does his best to contain his anger and not blindly destroy anything and anyone who gets in his way. Good or bad, he tries to teach Atreus that he should be better than him. That means we won't likely see the Kratos we saw in God of War 3, but the circumstances may have changed and he finds himself in conflicts he didn't intend to take part in. When people like Odin, Thor and their followers step forward to eliminate Kratos, Kratos must also fight and try to defeat them. When he is fighting the supernatural beings with unimaginable powers, God of War Ragnarok must depict scenes we had seen before in God of War 3. Although, when Kratos and Atreus are inevitably battling a massive flood of ultranatural enemies, the pace of gameplay should also increase, and Santa Monica should consider a choice for the division. Our assumption is that God of War Ragnarok will be full of breathtaking moments and boss fight that the series has always been known for, because Kratos and Atreus will be driven from one fight to another, and their adventure will be full of challenges in this game. Also, our other assumption is that these 2 will remove all obstacles one after the other to face Odin at the end of their way. God of War 3 was not much different from this hypothesis, and at times, it seemed almost like a boss rush game, where Kratos was constantly seen slaughtering different gods and bosses, and at this time taking advantage of speed seems vital in gameplay. Finally, balancing all the fictional content and narrative of the game with relentless battles and boss fights can be complicated in God of War Ragnarok. Moreover, if the game decides to take responsibility for laying the groundwork for making later versions of the series, the path will become even harder for the Santa Monica studio. God of War Ragnarok game will be released on the 9th of November this year for PlayStation 4 and 5.